1943, a small town in Ohio. The air smells of coal dust and fresh bread from the bakery. James Callahan, 28, stands in his family's farmhouse, clutching a letter he should have burned. His hands tremble. His wife, Eleanor, is upstairs, humming, to their newborn son. The letter holds a secret that could destroy them all. Why didn't he tell her? Who is he protecting? 50 years later, his grandson finds that letter in a dusty attic trunk. What James hid in wartime shadows unravels a betrayal no one saw coming. Before you hear this incredible tale, take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss another heartfelt story like this one. 43. A small town in Ohio. The air smells of coal dust and fresh bread from the bakery. James Callahan, 28, stands in his family's farmhouse, clutching a letter he should have burned. His hands tremble. His wife, Eleanor, is upstairs, humming to their newborn son. The letter holds a secret that could destroy them all. Why didn't he tell her? Who was he protecting? 50 years later, his grandson finds that letter in a dusty attic trunk. What James hid in wartime shadows unravels a betrayal no one saw coming. James was no ordinary farmer. Drafted into the army in 42, he'd returned home on leave after basic training, his uniform crisp, his eyes haunted. Eleanor thought it was the war weighing on him, stories of Normandy and fallen friends. But that letter, tucked in his jacket, told a different story. It wasn't from the army. It was from a woman named Clara, someone Eleanor had never heard of. "Meet me in Chicago," it read. "We can't keep pretending." What did Clara know? Why Chicago? The farmhouse was quiet that night, save for the creak of the porch swing. James sat alone, staring at the stars. Eleanor had asked him about his deployment plans, her voice soft, trusting. He'd lied, said he was shipping out to England. Truth was, he didn't know where he was going. Not yet. The letter burned in his pocket. Should he meet Clara? Could he risk it? He crushed it in his fist, but didn't tear it. That choice would haunt him. Days later, James boarded a train. Not for the war, but for Chicago. Eleanor waved from the platform, her smile brave, unaware. The train rattled through fields, each mile pulling James deeper into a web he couldn't escape. Clara waited at a diner, her red coat a beacon in the grey city. She was no stranger. She'd worked at the munitions factory where James trained recruits. Their late-night talks had turned into something dangerous. "I'm not letting you go," Clara said, her eyes fierce. "You owe me." Owe her what? Clara's demand was simple, but devastating. Leave Eleanor. Start over with her. She claimed James had promised this before he'd married. Had he? His memory blurred. Those factory nights, the whiskey, the war's shadow. He'd been reckless, but love. He loved Eleanor. Yet Clara's words twisted like a knife. "I know what you did, James. I'll tell." What did she know? Was it the money? The deal he'd made? Flashback to 42. James, not yet deployed, had trained men at the factory. A local businessman, Harold Vance, approached him with a proposition. The war effort needed supplies, tires, rations, uniforms. Harold could get them, but for a price. James, desperate to secure his family's farm before leaving, agreed to connect Harold to army buyers. The deal was shady. Kickbacks, inflated invoices. James got $500, enough to save the farm. But Harold kept records. Did Clara know about the money? In Chicago, James faced Clara. "I can't leave Eleanor," he said, voice low. Her face hardened. "Then you'll lose everything." She slid a photo across the table, James and Harold shaking hands outside the factory. His stomach dropped. Blackmail. If Eleanor or the army found out, he'd be ruined, court-martialed, disgraced. Why hadn't he seen Clara's trap? Could he talk his way out? He returned to Ohio, the photo hidden in his boot. Eleanor greeted him with a kiss, oblivious. "You're different," she said, frowning. "Just tired." He lied. That night, he buried the letter and photo in the barn under a loose floorboard. He'd deal with Clara later, but later never came. He shipped out to France in '44, the war swallowing his secrets. Did Clara wait? Did she tell? The war ended. James came. Home in '46, thinner, quieter. Eleanor noticed he avoided town, skipped church. "What happened over there?" she'd ask. He'd shrug, change the subject. The farm thrived, their son Tommy grew, but James carried a weight no one saw. Harold Vance had died in '45, heart attack, they said. James thought he was free. Was he wrong? Years passed. 1955. Tommy, now 12, found a loose board in the barn while chasing a stray cat. He pried it up, found a tin box. Inside, a crumpled letter and a faded photo. "Dad, what's this?" he asked at dinner. James froze, fork halfway to his mouth. Eleanor looked over, curious. "Just old junk," James snapped, snatching the box. His voice was too sharp. Why was he so angry? What was he hiding? Eleanor didn't press, but her eyes lingered. That night, she searched the barn while James slept. The box was gone. James had moved it. She never mentioned it, but a crack formed in their trust. Tommy, confused, stopped asking questions. The secret festered, unspoken. Did Eleanor suspect another woman or something worse? By 1965, Tommy was 22, married with a son of his own, Michael, the grandson who'd later find the letter. James and Eleanor's marriage held, but it was strained. Eleanor grew distant, spent more time at church. James drank more, worked late in the fields. The farm was prosperous, but the family was fraying. Why didn't James confess? Could he still fix it? Tommy's wife left him, taking Michael. Tommy spiraled, drinking, gambling. James blamed himself. Had his secret poisoned the family? He visited Tommy, tried to help, but Tommy pushed him away. "You're not who you pretend to be, Dad," he slurred one night. Did Tommy know about Clara? Or the deal with Harold? Eleanor got sick. Cancer. James stayed by her side, guilt gnawing at him. She never asked about the letter, but her silence felt like judgment. Before she died, she whispered, "Be honest, James, for Michael." He nodded, tears falling, but said nothing. Why couldn't he tell her? What stopped him? James, now 78, lived alone on the farm. Michael, 28, visited one summer, helping clear the attic. He found a locked trunk, rusted, but heavy. "What's in here, Grandpa?" he asked. James hesitated, then handed him the key. "Open it," he said, voice heavy. Inside, Michael found the tin box, letter, photo, and something else. A bank ledger from 1942, showing $500 deposited in James's name. "Grandpa, what is this?" Michael asked. James sat down, face pale. Was he ready to tell? The letter from Clara was brittle, ink faded. "Meet me, or I tell," it warned. The photo showed James with Harold, a deal sealed in shadows. The ledger tied it all together, proof of corruption. Michael's eyes widened. "You took money? During the war?" James nodded, staring at the floor. "It was for the farm, for us." But there was more. Clara's threat, the blackmail. Why had James kept it all these years? What hadn't? He said. Michael pressed, voice shaking. "Who's Clara? Did you betray Grandma?" James's silence was an answer. The room felt smaller, the air thick. Michael stormed out, clutching the box. He needed answers, but James wasn't giving them. Not yet. What else was in that trunk? Could Michael forgive him? 1993, the Ohio farmhouse attic. Michael, 28, clutches the tin box, his grandfather James's secrets spilling out. A letter from Clara, a photo with Harold Vance, a 1942 bank ledger showing $500. You took money? During the war? Michael's voice shakes. James, 78, slumps in a chair, face pale. It was for the farm, for us. But Clara's threat, blackmail, hangs unspoken. Michael's eyes burn. Did you betray Grandma? James's silence cuts deeper than words. Michael storms out, box in hand. What else is hidden? Can James explain before it's too late? Michael drove to his motel, the tin box on the passenger seat. The letter's words echoed, "Meet me, or I tell." Clara wasn't just a fling. She had power over James. But why? The photo of James and Harold shaking hands felt like a crime scene. The ledger's $500, blood money from a wartime deal, made Michael's stomach churn. Was Grandpa a crook or a victim? He needed answers, but James's silence was a wall. Could he dig deeper without breaking what was left of their family? Back at the farmhouse, James sat alone, staring at the trunk. 50 years of lies weighed on him. He'd saved the farm, but at what cost? Clara's face flashed in his mind, her sharp smile, her threat in that Chicago diner. He'd thought burying the letter would bury the truth, but Michael's discovery cracked open the past. Should he chase his grandson? Tell him everything? Or let the secret die with him? The phone rang. Tommy, Michael's father. "Dad," Michael called. "What's going on?" Did Tommy know more than he let on? Michael, at the motel, spread the box's contents on the bed. The letter was brittle, Clara's handwriting bold. "You owe me, James. Chicago, or I tell Harold's wife." Harold's wife? Why her? Michael's mind raced. Harold Vance was a businessman, dead since 45. Maybe his wife knew something. But it was 1993. Could she still be alive? He found an old phone book in the motel drawer, flipped to V. There, Margaret Vance, widow, listed in Cleveland. Was it a coincidence? Could she hold the key? James, meanwhile, poured a whiskey, hands shaking. Tommy's call had rattled him. "Michael's upset, Dad. Something about a letter?" James deflected, but Tommy's tone was sharp. "You always hid things, like with Mom." Eleanor's memory stung. James had never told her about Clara or the money. Her dying words, "Be honest, James," burned. Had Tommy sensed the lie all these years? Was that why he'd fallen apart? James grabbed his coat. He had to find Michael, but where? And what would he say? Michael drove to Cleveland the next morning, the box locked in his trunk. Margaret Vance's house was a modest bungalow, roses climbing the porch. An old woman, maybe 80, answered the door. "Mrs. Vance?" Michael asked. She nodded, eyes wary. "I'm James Callahan's grandson. I need to talk about Harold." Her face tightened. "That's a name I haven't heard in years." She let him in. What did she know? Could she unravel Clara's threat? Inside, Margaret offered tea, her hands steady despite her age. "Harold was no saint," she said. "War made him greedy. He used the factory to line his pockets." Michael showed her the photo. James and Harold, deal sealed. Margaret's eyes narrowed. "Your grandfather was in over his head. Harold had a partner, some woman. She ran the show." "Clara?" Michael's pulse quickened. "What did she do?" Margaret hesitated. "She blackmailed men, soldiers mostly, got them to do dirty work." Was James one of her pawns? Back in Ohio, James drove to Michael's motel, heart pounding. The clerk said Michael had checked out. Panic crept in. He'd lost Eleanor, pushed Tommy away. Could he lose Michael too? He remembered Clara's last letter, one he'd never shown anyone. It wasn't in the tin box, thank God, but hidden in the farmhouse cellar. Should he destroy it, or show Michael? It held the final piece of the puzzle, but the truth could break them all. What had Clara written? Michael pressed Margaret. This woman, Clara, did she work at the munitions factory? Margaret nodded. Clara Hayes, dangerous. She'd charm men, then trap them. Harold was scared of her. Michael showed Clara's letter. Margaret read it, lips tight. She wanted James to run away with her. When he refused, she turned on him. Turned how? She gave Harold proof of James's deal. Those kickbacks. Harold used it to keep James quiet. So Clara betrayed. James too? Why hadn't Grandpa fought back? James reached the cellar, flashlight in hand. Behind a stack of crates, he found the second letter, sealed since '43. Clara's words were venom. You chose Eleanor, so I chose Harold. The army will know your crime. She'd sent a copy of the ledger to Harold, who'd threatened to expose James unless he paid more. James had paid $200 from his army wages until Harold's death. He'd thought it was over. But Clara, she vanished. Where did she go? Was she still out there? Michael left Margaret's, mind reeling. Clara wasn't just a scorned lover, she was a manipulator, playing James and Harold against each other. But why target James? He stopped at a library, searching old newspapers on microfiche. A 1944 article caught his eye. Local woman missing after factory scandal. Clara Hayes, 30, disappeared after allegations of fraud at the munitions plant. No arrest, no trace. Had she fled? Or worse? Michael's gut twisted. Did James know where she went? James sat in the cellar, Clara's letter in hand. He'd never told Eleanor because he was ashamed, not just of the money, but of Clara. She'd seduced him, made him question his love for Eleanor. He'd resisted, but the guilt lingered. Michael deserved the truth, but could he handle it? James drove to Cleveland, guessing Michael's trail. He had to find him before the secret tore them apart. But what if Michael already knew too much? Michael found another article, 1945, Harold Vance's obituary. Survived by wife, Margaret. No mention of Clara, but a sidebar noted ongoing investigations into factory fraud. James's name wasn't listed, but the timing fit. Michael called Margaret again. Did Clara ever contact James after '43? Margaret sighed. Not that I know, but Harold said she'd left town with money, lots of it. Money from whom? James? Or other victims? Michael needed to confront his grandfather. James arrived in Cleveland, spotting Michael's car outside a library. He parked, heart heavy. Inside, Michael sat at a microfiche machine, articles spread out. Grandpa, Michael said, voice cold. Why didn't you tell me about Clara? James sat, weary. I was a fool. She trapped me, but I trapped myself too. He handed Michael the second letter. Read it, then decide what you think of me. What would Michael find? Could James redeem himself? Michael read Clara's words, each one a blade. She'd played. James used his mistake to control him, but James had paid, literally and emotionally, to protect his family. Why keep this from Grandma? Michael asked. James's eyes glistened. I loved her. I couldn't lose her trust. Michael softened, seeing the broken man before him. You should have trusted us. They sat in silence, the past heavy between them. Could they rebuild? Or was the betrayal too deep? James died quietly, leaving the farm to Michael. The tin box stayed in Michael's desk, a reminder of truth's cost. He never told Tommy the full story. Some wounds were too raw. But at James's funeral, Michael spoke of his grandfather's love, his flaws, his fight to protect them. The crowd listened, some crying, others nodding. Michael realized the secret hadn't shattered them. It had humanized James. Did Michael forgive him? He looked at the farmhouse, now his, and whispered, "Yeah, Grandpa, I do." If this story reminded you of your grandpa's tales, please share your own in the comments. I'd love to hear them.